Meeple Nation Podcast 446 Puzzle Games.
Welcome, citizens of Meeple Nation. For the next 30 minutes, sit back and enjoy.
Meeple Nation is sponsored by GameToppersLLC.com. Go to their website, check out what they have. They have beautiful game toppers that will fit your table. Not only will those toppers fit your table, but you can throw a beautiful mat on that topper. Toppers come with all sorts of accessories, dice towers, cup holders. We use our cup holders every single week at game night.
Some of us better than others. Make sure you use them appropriately. They do need to lock in. Even have wine chalice holders if you like to drink wine while you're playing a board game.
You don't spill that on the game table.
That definitely needs to go in the holder.
No red wine at the table.
The mats that GameToppersLLC.com has are the most gorgeous mats I've seen. They have a stitched edge. They are super high quality. Nice, thick, beautiful mats. And they all come with their own carrying case, too. Check them out, GameToppersLLC.com.
We are the hosts of Meeple Nation. I'm Douglas Stewart.
I'm Nathan Howard.
I'm Dave Holliday.
I'm Logan Howard.
And I am Andy Holliday.
I get excited every time you're here, Logan.
I know, it's so exciting now.
It is, yes. I'm hoping this trend continues.
We'll see. I won't hold my breath. I mean, yay, yes. It should have happened all the time.
Podcast is always better with you here, Logan, for sure.
My life is definitely better being here with you, and all of you, as I'm pointing my hands out to the ether for the internet.
Speaking of the internet, there is a magical little place you can go visit called meeplenation.com. Go check us out. We have blogs. I think there is really some fantastic writing that goes into a lot of those blogs. Everyone sitting around the table here writes, but we also have a few other bloggers. And on occasion, our spouses chime in and put some pen to paper and show us all up. Head over there and check out those blogs. So head on over to the website and check those blogs out. While you're there, you can also check out photos, links to past episodes, bios on the Meeple Nation podcast members and blog writers. And there is a link to our Patreon. So if supporting us on Patreon is something that you would like to do, go check out the website, follow that link. We really appreciate everyone who contributes on Patreon to help make the podcast better. We would also love to hear from you, so if you have any questions or comments, send us a line at meeplenation@gmail.com.
You know, we say that all the time, but we would love to hear from you. Hope you know that we really do.
This week, we begin our discussion of puzzle games. These are games that have some puzzly aspect to them, that take some time to figure out, some strategy to plan what you're going to do, and to be able to identify the best move available.
When we decided we were going to talk about puzzle games, one game in particular came to my mind. It actually is not a puzzle game, which really surprises me. And that is Tiny Towns. I think it very much fits as a puzzle game. When you're trying to plan out and get everything to fit, the resources that are getting called out don't match what you want. It is really a puzzle game.
Was this on BGG? It wasn't listed as a puzzle game?
It is not
Correct,
listed
yeah.
as a puzzle
Oh
game.
my word,
listed
yeah,
as a
Tiny
puzzle.
Towns is absolutely a puzzle game. It's a great puzzle game.
But as far as puzzle games go, I think Tiny Towns is an awesome game, and I totally think it fits into this.
I absolutely agree. I have a lot of those games where you're trying to put together polyomino pieces to fit within your town, be able to establish patterns that are going to give you the most points. Very much a puzzle game. There's several games that I was trying to go through, those games in your mind that you think, oh yeah, that's a puzzle game, that according to BGG is not a puzzle game. It's hard to come up with those on the fly, and you look over the shelf and I'm sure there's several games that you missed or didn't make it to the list. We haven't missed them yet. We're just beginning to discuss the subject. There's games out there that definitely have a puzzle element that I'm sure we're going to totally omit that are in our collection somewhere.
Totally. And now, I might regret this, but first puzzle game that pops into your mind, Logan, go.
Isle of Cats.
That's on the list.
It is.
I was actually happy to see it on the list. Isle of Cats is one of those puzzle games that I've thoroughly enjoyed whenever I played it. I don't think I've ever won it, but it's one that I've always enjoyed playing. Play Scarabia, we'll play a Nova Luna, all those types of things. I have a hard time winning those games, but I always love playing them.
There's a challenge to it. I don't remember if the game of Isle of Cats were actually completed. My boat filled up every spot. I think I still lost that game, but that's...
But that sense of completion.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I did that. I got my whole boat filled. I don't think my families were very big to get those cat family bonuses, but still, there's that puzzle element. You complete that, you do something like that. It's satisfying.
I think I felt that way in Isle of Cats when I got to my family size of 14 cats.
Yeah.
Depending on players, that's pretty hard to do.
Absolutely.
Get 14 of the same color, all touching on your board and fitting. Woo!
Absolutely.
One of the games that we've played several times, Logan, this is one that you have. I've enjoyed later releases more so than the original release, were the Chronicles of Crime series. I've had a ton of fun with this. One of the game nights I brought Sabrina over and we played this, and she seemed to enjoy it. Unfortunately, it's one of those games that if you're not one of those players that will just jump in, which is, I think there's an issue with a lot of the games on this list that are cooperative puzzle games. Certain players that are maybe a little more passive can just sit back and not be involved. Thought she did a good job being involved, which that was my worry, is that she wouldn't, or that she was just going to sit back and let us play. But Chronicles of Crime, I thought, was very well done the times that we've played. And I'd like to get the third one of that last installment that you had. I don't know if you've gotten it yet.
Oh, I have it.
I would love to break that out again and play it. Great game. I love the app. I think that's my favorite part, actually, is when you're doing the investigations, you'll open up the app and you'll be looking at a room and you move the phone around in 360 degrees and can see the crime scene of what's going on. And you have to call out to the other players of what you see, and they're pulling out cards trying to find clues. Solid game, in my opinion. I loved it.
I enjoyed the first one, but the re-implementation, the Chronicles of Crime...
Millennium series.
Yeah, the Millennium series, the 1400, the
So much
1900,
better.
2400. But I enjoyed those so much more. I felt that it was easier for me to be involved in the later versions of Chronicles of Crime as opposed to just simply being an observer. And not that I'm necessarily a passive person and shy away from that, but it was just easy to... It almost felt like a conflict, like, oh, I want to look at the crime scene, I want to do this, I want to do that. Whereas with a millennial version, for me anyways, it seemed like it involved the non-alpha players. It made the game more accessible to non-alpha players than occurs in the original game.
When you played the original game, how many players did you have playing?
My biggest fault was we played at SaltCon,
Me too.
and there was a lot of background noise. Very hard to concentrate, very hard to hear what was going on at the table. That was my first experience with it. There's a lot of outside distractions. I have played it once at a quieter venue, played it at home. There was a little bit of a disconnect for me. Obviously not the case for everybody, but for me there was still a disconnect that I didn't feel when we played the Millennial series.
I think one of the big things with Chronicles of Crime, when the first one came out, apps to games weren't really a big thing or cutting edge. We as players weren't doing it just right either. As a player, when we played the Millennial series, I could see Nathan start to check it out a little bit. So then I can assert and just hand the phone to Nathan and be like, now you're in charge of scanning things. And that was just something that we evolved because the developer evolves, makes it so it's a little bit more accessible for everybody. But then the players just kind of see that and just start passing the phone around, start passing the scanning. Other people can be part of the story and be fully involved with it. Not needing to do that, but other people need that extra action of doing something to be involved in those types of stories.
This is also one that I think 3 or 4 players is about right. I wouldn't go more than I played at SaltCon. I think we had more than that playing around the table. So you had the higher player count on top of all the chaos and the noise. It was really hard to stay invested in the game.
One of the problems you run into with a higher player count is that the game penalizes you from a time perspective every time a player looks at that sort of virtual environment. And if you have a lot of players at the table, everyone wants to look at it. That's the fun part, right? I have the little glasses that clip onto your phone. You can see it in more of a 3D space. It is incredibly fun, but everyone wants to do that. When I play with my kids, there's no way we're going to play through one of those crime scenes without everybody taking a turn to look at it. And so you just kind of have to go into that accepting that you're going to take some time penalty letting everybody look at the crime scene. But the crime scene is that fun, puzzly nature of this game that I think is done really, really well.
Well, not only that, I think they've done a better job with the Millennium series, just with the story and red herrings, and overall, I think it's just really well done, much more so than the previous game.
And I've played it solo a few times. Fantastic. highly suggest it.
And that's Chronicles of Crime.
Going along the line of Chronicles of Crime, there's a series out there of games called Time Stories. Time travelers, you're going back in time to repair or fix an anomaly that some other time traveler may have disrupted. As you go through, you have to explore the area, talk to people, and try to fix what was wrong. And if you make a mistake, you get pulled back to the present, and then you're just going to make another attempt. And you get penalized for more attempts that you make. It gets to the point where you'll fail the mission. When I played the base game of this, it was a whole new style of game to play, and I very much enjoyed it. As we went through some of the other scenarios, some of them are better than others. There's a lot of elements of discovering, and I love it, like you mentioned, Andy, with Chronicles of Crime. There's red herrings to chase, follow that storyline all the way through. You make 2 or 3 attempts to find out, we didn't even need to go down here. And that's kind of frustrating for these kind of games. It's too easy, and if you go through and you win the first time, I think you lose that enjoyment. There needs to be a challenge in that. I found in Time Stories that the stories were very challenging, mistakes that you're making, and so comparing it to Chronicles of Crime, you have to flow through that to get to the resolution. Whereas in Time Stories, you flow through, you ruined it, you ran out of time, you're back, you got to start over. I did like that element in Time Stories. I thought some of the stories were exceptional, and I thought some of the stories were less exceptional. Overall, I still very much enjoyed Time Stories. In fact, I have 3 or 4 cases are yet to be opened.
That's one of those I have not played, but it sounds like fun.
Yeah, whenever you want to get to those, let me know. I thoroughly enjoyed Time Stories. I think Time Stories does a really good job at rewarding players who take notes. More so than any other of these sort of puzzly style games that I've played, I have taken more notes playing Time Stories than any of those. What's fun is if you take notes and chart your way through, because every time you sort of have to reset the time stream and go back and try it again, you can use those notes and puzzle your way through and kind of figure out, this is where all these clues are leading, this is where all these clues are leading, which path is going to take us to ultimate victory. I really enjoy the storytelling part of it and that puzzly nature of Time Stories.
We got to play a couple of the breaking games. I was really excited to play these. I thought it was a cool thing where you're in an escape room, but you're trying to break in. The first one I played was break into Alcatraz. The second one we played was break into Area 51. I thought the 3D puzzle aspect, the physical part of the game, was really cool. The clues were way too ambiguous, I thought. I felt like we had to get help with almost every single clue, like every time.
Always far too clever for their own good.
Yes.
And I like to feel like I'm somebody who's observant, and I enjoy these puzzle games, the exit unlocks, even doing escape rooms. A lot of those are very clever, but when it's so obscure, at a loss, and is exactly like you said, we had to go to help on almost everything. When you had to go to help for everything, Logan, like you said, that they were too clever for their own good, it just took away from the game.
It's almost if you needed a player when you play those break-in games to read all the hints and then just act as a ref to guide you through without spoiling things. But then that kind of ruins that player. Being the ref doesn't sound like it'd be very fun.
I do feel like if they could streamline the clue giving and puzzly nature of this break-in series, I think they'd really have a hit on their hands. Like you were saying, Andy, that 3D component that sits in the middle of the table and the way it just sort of folds out in layers is exceptionally fun to engage in.
It really is. That part of the cleverness I thought was top notch. And I agree. If they could just work on clues, it just felt way too ambiguous. Even after we would get the clue and we'd kind of figure it out, I'm just scratching my head. How in the world would we have gotten that?
How are we supposed to make that logical leap? I didn't know how this system worked when we played it, Break-In Area 51. You guys put this box in the middle of the table, and we were starting to read clues and figure things out. And I was like, okay, we're trying to break into the Area 51. That's clever. That's neat. When we finally got to that point, you guys started pinching little brackets and stuff all around the box. And I was like, what's going on? Destroying it? What's happening? And then all of a sudden it folds out to this next layer of what was inside of one of the bunkers or hangars, I think is what it was. And then from there, you broke in even further and further still. I just thought that was so clever. And so I thought a lot of the clues were kind of hard to follow. I thought the premise was fantastic.
Oh, I thought the visual representation of the game was done so well. I only played the Alcatraz one. You had to have the board and you're staring at it and you had to look at it at the exact right height, turn the game to the right angle to get to the clue. That level of detail is amazing. It must have taken them so long to get the game to that point.
So a relatively new puzzle game that me and my wife have started playing is Project L. And I think we mentioned this back on one of our news episodes. This is one that I believe we have all discovered recently and really like. My wife really likes this game, and I think it's exceptionally well done. That puzzle of trying to figure out how to put your pieces into the different cards, when you want to take new cards, and when you want to try to upgrade those pieces to maximize efficiency, I think is very fun. Hits you with those puzzle elements on multiple fronts. It's not just the Tetris-style puzzle on each card. There's also a really fun efficiency puzzle with knowing when you want to take more of those cards to fill out, and also with the timing on when you want to take that. What do they call it? It's like the super action or the
mastercraft.
The mastercraft or whatever that is, where you can put pieces into every card that you have in front of you. And so I really like the puzzly aspect of Project L. That's a great game.
A lot of people compare Project L to number 9, except for they say Project L is fun. I enjoy number 9. I think the challenge of number 9, where you're stacking those polyomino shapes on top of another to try to raise your pieces to the level without leaving any holes or gaps below them to score the optimal amount of points. I think that's very well done. I very much enjoy number 9. However, Project L is phenomenal, I think. It's my go-to puzzle game now.
Yeah, that one really struck well with my family. My daughter Sierra wants to get that game. If it's on the table, that's where she's at. I played it for my first time here at your game night, Nathan, with Amara, and she felt the same way. We both really enjoyed it. Great puzzle game. Kind of a great filler game. It takes you 20 minutes, 15, 20 minutes, maybe 30 minutes, depending on player count. Such a fun game. Honestly, if there aren't enough short games that are as fun as Project L, a lot of short games, they're okay. But it's not something like, oh, let's play that game. They're usually just, okay, how much time do we have till this group's done? All right, let's play this. Project L does not fit into that category. I think it fits into the category of, hey, yeah, let's play Project L. It's a fun game.
It deserves the play. I got to play this for the first time a little while ago at Hug MeepleCon with a few of the Hug ladies. I enjoyed it.
Quick to learn. It's simple, yet very complex. It has layers in it. Maybe that's what the L stands for, is layers. The challenge that's there is phenomenal for a game that is so easy to learn. 5 actions, player versus player, where you're just trying to outmanage your opponents. Winning that game is very rewarding. Just playing it is phenomenal as well.
Phenomenal.
Phenomena.
Do 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 do. Phenomenal.
So another game that I didn't see on the list is Merchant's Cove. And that game has a lot of little puzzles. It has a lot of, when do you fulfill this goal to get this artifact, this good, or bring it to market, balancing when to do certain actions, depending on what role you're playing, what actions to do when. There's a lot of little puzzles that go on there as well. Another puzzle game is Nova Luna, but it has the very interesting time tracker movement, managing your time as you were talking about in Project L. Do I take this action? Is it worth knowing that I'm not going to get another action for X number of turns? Or if it's at the end of the market season when the ships have all sailed, is this one action worth being the last action of the round? It just makes it so vital of what to do when. It's really satisfying, as you were saying, when you get that answer right.
Yeah, I didn't think about Merchant's Cove. You're right. With all those mini games, a lot of those really do have a puzzle aspect to them. You know, the main game, maybe not so much, but all the mini games that each player is playing individually, for sure. I can totally see that.
Oh, the Fortune Teller has some of that.
Oh, yeah.
Dragon Farmer, the Chronomancer, all of them have their own little puzzly aspects of it. And I think most of it is just when to bring which good to market when, that you want to produce these goods. Is it worth it at the end of the round to get 7 points for this good, or hold on to it and hope that it's going to be worth it in the end for another round?
So that reminds me of That's So Clever and Twice as Clever. Simple little dice games where you're trying to roll dice to get those patterns, trying to puzzle out. Not necessarily a puzzle game, but you're still trying to, as an individual, puzzle out which action you're going to take to try to maximize bonus actions that you receive when you fill in a color or you fill in a section on a row, trying to maximize those. That reminds me of Merchant's Cove. But another puzzle game that I really enjoy is Azul. I've been playing a lot of Azul with my wife, being able to try to maximize which tile you're going to take, not just which tiles you're going to take to try to fill in your roles, but which tile you're going to take that will score you bonuses. Managing those bonuses is really where the heart of Azul is. Get your vertical row, your horizontal row, getting the same color filled up in all 5 of those rows. That's the big puzzle of the game. It's not drawing the tiles and going, oh, where am I going to put this in my mosaic? It is, how am I going to monopolize on what is available that's going to benefit me and give me points by connecting pieces and completing those patterns that are going to give you those bonuses at the end.
And that is especially true with Azul's Summer Pavilion. Not only are you triggering those adjacency bonuses, so when you place a tile, it's going to score, but it's going to score more points if it's adjacent to other tiles that you already have down. But you can also try to surround different spots on your board, like the little statues and windows and different features in the garden. As you do enclose those areas, you get a bunch of bonuses. So it triggers combos. You can draw a bunch of extra tiles that get placed and can be used for more scoring potential. I think you're exactly right, Nathan. I think that is the genius of Azul, is solving the puzzle that it presents to you.
You got to be able to monopolize what's available. Still, the meta puzzle is trying to make it so that you're going to score bonus scores at the end of the game. And the same with all of them. Queen's Garden. Personally, my favorite is the stained glass of Sintra. I like the feel of that one, the look of that one. But all 4 of those, exceptional games.
I can't believe none of you guys have brought up.
Nathan, you introduced me to a puzzle game, New York Zoo, a game that I introduced to my kids and to my mom.
And to me.
And to Doug. And it has become one of our favorites at our house. In New York Zoo, you have same polynomial pieces that are your pens for your animals. The object of the game is to first person to completely fill their zoo up with pens and attractions. Going through the game, though, you're going to be gaining animals to put in the pens, and those animals will make baby animals, and you keep filling up your pens. Whenever you fill up a pen, you get to gain a free attraction tile that's going to go into your zoo. The larger attractions obviously get taken first. So there's a big roller coaster that's going to get taken quickly. That's always the first one because it takes up the most space. However, as you get down to where your zoo is almost completely filled, those smaller tiles become far more valuable because the pens that are available can't fit. So you need to get to where you're filling up your pens with animals and getting those attractions. Ultimately, whoever fills up their pens first wins the game. When we introduced my mom to this, we finished playing. First words out of her mouth was, we need to play this next week. Whenever we're trying to decide what to play, what's that zoo one? Let's play that zoo one again. So it has definitely become a family favorite at our house.
My favorite New York Zoo story, when I bought New York Zoo, Andy, you were excited about it. You wanted to borrow it. At one of your game nights, I'm there, and my copy is still at your house. I suggested to Amara, your daughter, that we should play that. Everybody else was playing something at the other table. So I got it out to start setting it up. And she reaches over the table and just pulls it to her side. And I'll do this. Okay. I mean, it's my game, but that's fine.
That is such an Amara thing to do.
It is. And she's awesome. Every time New York Zoo comes up, I always think of that story, and it always makes me smile and laugh.
If you haven't played New York Zoo, give it a try. Not my favorite game by any means. There's so many things about this game that are just top-notch. The way the gameplay works, collect animals or you collect a pen, and you can create chain reactions that do awesome stuff to fill out your zoo, and it's really, really cool.
It is a good game. It's not a complicated game. To say that it's a family favorite, it's not one of my favorite games, but I'm always willing to play it, and everyone around the table has fun whenever we do so.
I think it's complicated enough to keep you entertained, Andy.
For sure.
While it's simple enough for people that are not familiar with board games to really sink their teeth into. I think that's why it's a good game.
I would agree with that.
A great gateway game.
Nathan also introduced me to a game a while ago on BGA when he still invited me to play games on BGA called Patchwork. Total puzzle game, fits this theme perfectly. It's a game that I really enjoyed. Every time he re-invited me to it, I was like, oh, sweet, we get to play it again.
Is this where you're making quilts for your cats?
No, that's Calico.
But it's a quilt-making game.
It is a quilt-making game.
Little polyomino colored quilt pieces that you're adding to your quilt board, which is, I don't know, a 12 by 12 grid or something. You have buttons on there, and your buttons are your currency. So every time you place a piece with buttons, you get more currency to spend to purchase pieces.
It's an excellent 2-player game. It's one that I've been playing with my wife consistently because she's more fun than you, Dave.
Cuter too.
That's
Most definitely. Yeah, most definitely more appealing than you are. Calico is a great game where you're also building a quilt. As you're building this quilt, trying to connect patterns. If you can connect 3 of the same pattern, then you'll get a button that you can put onto your quilt. Each of these buttons is worth 3 points, and there's 6 different types of buttons. If you can collect all of them, then you get to place the rainbow button on your quilt. Also, at the same time, if you can match patterns, you can attract certain cats to come lay on your quilt. At the first of the game, each player is going to be dealt 4 pattern tokens, and they'll be placed on the board, and these tokens will include options patterns that are next to them. Some of them you might need 2 different patterns, so that means you have to have 6 tiles adjacent to that tile that are of one pattern or a second pattern. And you can have one that has like 1 type, 2 types, and then 3 types of patterns. Now, you can also elevate that by matching not just patterns, but colors. Those colors don't necessarily have to be on the same pattern, but if you can have 2 pairs of the same pattern around one of your scoring tiles, and then also you can have 3 pairs of colors be adjacent to that scoring tile, which will allow you to gain higher bonus points at the end of the game if you can complete both the pattern and the color around one of these tiles. The challenge is these tiles, these scoring tiles, there's going to be only one space between the 3 of them in 4 different locations. So you have to manage what you're trying to score with the one bonus tile. You want to manage what you're scoring on one tile in correlation to what you're scoring on the next score tile that's closest to it. And then you want to manage that one to the ones that are on both sides of it to try to manage and monopolize on those points. But if you can attract cats to your quilt, complete patterns to get buttons, you're going to maximize your score and be able to have a good game. Calico's a great game.
So I have not played Calico, but I have heard that it is quite a brain-burning experience. After hearing your description of it, I would have to say that the description seems accurate.
Oh, very much accurate. Especially if you're trying to focus on, I'm going to do both of these, which is very difficult to manage both the patterns and the colors and coordinate that with all 3 score tiles. Very much a challenging game. There are some empty spaces that you can put one of your tiles, because at the first of your turn, you have 2 tiles in your hand. And one of those tiles you're going to have to place, and then you're going to replace it with one of the 4 tiles that are face up, or you can try and draw a replacement tile blindly from the bag. High level of challenge completing these patterns and colors, even sometimes just completing the patterns or the color.
One of my favorite little puzzle games, a little gem by Phil Walker Harding called Barren Park. The base game of this is pretty simple. You're going to start with a certain number of tiles that represent the park that you're going to try to build, and you can play polyomino-shaped features. Most of them involve a bear habitat of some kind, but you can play these out into your park. As you cover certain icons in your park, it lets you grab more complex and higher scoring polyominoes and expand your park out. You're really just trying to be the first one to efficiently fill up your park with these polyomino pieces. It really is a fun puzzle to solve, but this game gets so much better with the expansion called Bad News Bears that introduces a monorail. You actually have a 3D monorail. It's built out of little 3D cardboard pieces. You'll take up some of the squares in your park to put little pillars where you can attach monorail pieces to. And if you can efficiently build your park out, but also build that monorail through your park, you can generate really high scoring combos. This is another one that fits into that category of puzzle game that's really easy to teach, but especially if you're playing it with that expansion, I think it offers some depth that really shines and creates a fun puzzle to solve.
Yeah, it sounds cool.
It sounds fun.
And I'm not just saying that like Andy. It really does.
This is a great sampling of puzzle games that we're going to be talking over in the next few episodes. Next week, we're each going to pick a game, piece that together for you, and give you a feel for that one, as well as another game coming up. Tune into those.
Until next time.
We'll see you finding the pattern in your puzzle game at the game table.
As always, we want to thank you for listening.
Check out our website. We have all sorts of cool things there. Love those blogs. Get a deeper look into the writing side of Meeple Nation.
Join our Facebook group, Meeple Nation Off Air. I look forward to seeing you there.
Follow us on Twitter at Meeple Nation. We also have Instagram.
Under the same name. We also want to thank our sponsor, GameToppersLLC.com.
We love their product, and they have so much goodness out there.
And we also want to thank Brain Detergent for our music.
Really, really a lot of fun to read. You can look
Really?
Yeah, even 3 reallys. It's probably really,
Ow.
really.
Thank you. And throw us a little support. We really, really appreciate.
All right. This week, I said all right.
Yeah, you
You
did.
guys gotta get on me just as much as
you
the
really
really.
did.
Okay, okay, but here's the deal, though.
No one says all right like you do, though, Nathan.
This week we begin our discussion of puzzle games. Did you hear it?
Yes.
Okay. This week we discuss our
Time to overthrow the BGG government.
Off with their heads.
Are we going full French Revolution?
I enjoyed those immensely more. No, I don't want to use immensely. I enjoyed those
Exponentially.
so much more.
Really, really more?
Exponentially.
Not really, really.
Yeah, not really, really. For me, anyways, it seemed like I was. It seemed like it. It seemed like it.
I felt like it.
It seemed like it involved.
And that's Chronicles of Crime. Join us next. Gosh darn it.
Until next time, Dave will finish his sentence.
That leads me. Have you? So
I have.
Say, I'm done.
I really, really like the. I thought the premise was fantastic.
Yeah, most definitely more appealing than you are. She shaves.
By the seashore?
Maybe. We'll see you. I can't say piecing together because I just said it in that one.
What are you going to say, Nate?
Puzzling over
noodling
these
out.
puzzle games.
You're positively puzzled over them.
We'll see you. Piecing to. I just said piecing again. I want to say piecing.
You really, really want
I really, really do. Yes.